There's a piece of plastic in your wallet right now that was engineered by neuroscientists, not accountants, to make you feel nothing while you lose money. In 2001, two researchers at MIT ran an experiment that the credit industry has spent 2 decades hoping you'd never hear about. They ran a real auction, real money. Tickets to a sold-out championship game, the kind people would kill to get their hands on. Half the room could only bid with cash. The other half could only bid with a credit card. Same tickets, same value, same room full of people. The card bidders didn't just bid a little higher. They bid, on average, more than double what the cash bidders were willing to pay. Nothing about the tickets changed. Only one thing changed: how the pain of losing money was hidden from them. Researchers have a name for it: the pain of paying. Hand someone cash and their brain registers a real loss. They feel it leave their hand. Hand them a card, and that feeling disappears almost entirely. The purchase registers, the loss does not. This is not a theory. This is not speculation. This was measured, published, peer-reviewed, and then quietly studied even harder by the very industry it exposed. Because once that discovery went public, it didn't stay buried in an academic journal. It became a blueprint. Pull out your own card statement. Wherever you are in the world, whatever currency, whatever bank, and somewhere near the bottom, in text small enough that it's almost daring you not to read it, is a number that changes everything. If you only ever pay the minimum, some balances can take longer to clear than a mortgage, and by the time they're gone, you will have paid back more in interest than you ever actually borrowed. That's not a warning label. That's a confession, printed in the smallest font legally allowed, because the minimum payment was never built to get you out of debt. It was calculated down to the decimal to keep you paying for as long as the law will allow, while making you feel like you're winning the entire time. So ask yourself something. The last time you tapped that card without thinking twice, was that convenience? Or was that precisely the feeling it was designed to give you? Because by the time this video ends, you will never look at that card the same way again. So how does a tiny minimum payment box turn into decades of debt? The math isn't complicated, it's just hidden. Here's what actually happens the moment you carry a balance. Say you owe a modest amount, nothing dramatic, nothing that feels like an emergency. The bank calculates your minimum payment using a formula, usually a small percentage of your balance, plus that month's interest, something like 1 to 3%. It sounds responsible. It sounds manageable. It's neither. Because that formula is designed so that most of what you pay each month goes toward interest, not the actual amount you borrowed. In the early years of carrying a balance, you can pay for months, sometimes years, and barely touch the original debt at all. The bank isn't hiding this from you illegally. It's all disclosed, technically, somewhere in a document most people never open. But disclosure isn't the same as understanding, and that gap between what's legal and what's actually understood is where the entire business model lives. Now add the second mechanism, the credit limit. When a bank raises your limit, it feels like a reward, like they trust you more, like you've earned something. That's not why they do it. A higher limit isn't recognition of your reliability. It's a calculated bet on your behavior. Banks use predictive models, built on millions of past customers, to estimate how much debt a person in your exact financial profile will likely carry before they start struggling. Raising your limit isn't a gift, it's giving you more rope, because the data says you'll probably use it, and the interest doesn't just sit there quietly, it compounds. Every month, interest is calculated not only on what you originally spent, but on the interest that's already accumulated. The debt grows on top of itself, quietly, in the background, whether you're paying attention or not. Then there's the reward points, the miles, the cashback, the perks that feel like the bank is on your side. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Reward cards, on average, charge higher interest rates than plain ones. Studies on cardholder behavior have found something the industry already knew. The promise of rewards makes people spend more than they would with an identical card that offered nothing back. The point isn't the 2% cash back. The point is that chasing the 2% makes you spend the other 98%. None of this requires you to be careless. None of this requires you to be bad with money. It only requires you to be human. because every part of this system was built, tested, and refined against exactly that: the minimum payment, the rising limit, the compounding interest, the rewards program. These aren't four separate features. They're four pieces of the same machine, and that machine has one job: keep the balance just low enough that you never panic, and just high enough that you never leave. Now here's the part that isn't in any disclosure box. This is the part they never have to tell you because it isn't written into a contract. It's built into your brain. Every time you use a credit card, you're not just making a purchase. You're triggering a small, measurable dopamine response. Not because you enjoy debt, because you enjoy anticipation. Neuroscientists who study spending behavior have found that the brain's reward system activates when you buy something, regardless of whether you actually have the money. The card doesn't ask your bank account a question. It just says yes, and yes feels good every single time, whether the money exists or not. This is why the sensation of swiping a card and the sensation of actually having money are two completely different experiences, even though, on paper, they're supposed to represent the same thing. Cash forces a decision point. You count it. You feel the total shrink. Your brain does the math in real time, and that math creates hesitation, a split second where your brain asks, do I actually want this enough to lose this? A credit card was engineered to remove that split second entirely. There's no counting, no shrinking pile, no physical evidence that anything happened at all, until weeks later, when a number on a screen tells you what you already forgot you did. This is called decoupling, separating the moment of pleasure from the moment of payment. And the further apart those two moments are, the easier it becomes to spend without processing it as spending. Retailers know this. It's why so many stores encourage you to open a store credit card at checkout, often with a small discount attached. The discount isn't really the incentive, the card is, because once you're paying with credit instead of cash, research on spending behavior consistently shows the same pattern. People spend more per visit, return more often, and underestimate their own total spending by significant margins. None of this is accidental. None of this is a side effect. Card design, checkout timing, app interfaces, even the specific color and weight of the plastic in your hand, all of it has been tested, refined, and optimized by people whose entire job is to make spending feel as frictionless and as forgettable as possible. You are not weak for falling into this. You were never given a fair fight. The credit card industry spends billions of dollars every year not on interest rate advertising, but on behavioral research, on understanding exactly how your brain works, so they can build a product that works against it. And the most unsettling part isn't the debt itself. It's that most people carrying it still believe, deep down, that it was entirely their own decision. So if the system was built this precisely, is there actually a way out? Or is this just meant to make you feel hopeless? Here's the uncomfortable answer. The way out exists. It's just never the thing that gets advertised, because there's no profit in you finding it. The first thing almost nobody is told clearly is this: not all debt behaves the same way, and treating it like it does is one of the most expensive mistakes a person can make. There are two dominant strategies for paying down multiple balances. One is called the avalanche method. You pay off whichever balance has the highest interest rate first, regardless of size, while making minimums on everything else. Mathematically, this saves you the most money every time without exception. The other is called the snowball method. You pay off your smallest balance first, regardless of interest rate, to build momentum and a sense of progress. The industry doesn't care which one you use. What it cares about is that you don't use either, that you keep paying the minimum indefinitely, because the minimum is the entire business model. The second thing rarely mentioned, balance transfer offers. Some cards offer 0% interest for a limited period if you move an existing balance over. Used correctly, this can save you real money. Used the way it's designed to be used against you, it becomes a trap disguised as a solution. Because when that promotional period ends, the interest rate that returns is often higher than what you started with. And by then, the transfer fee has already been paid. Here's the part almost nobody says out loud. Credit card companies do not actually want you to default. A default means they get nothing. What they want is for you to sit in a specific zone, carrying just enough debt that you keep paying interest, but not so much that you stop paying entirely. That zone has a name inside the industry. They call profitable revolving card holders revolvers, and the entire product, the rewards, the limit increases, the app notifications reminding you of your points balance, is built to keep you comfortably inside that zone for as long as possible. Knowing this changes the entire game, because once you understand that the system needs you calm and unaware more than it needs you in debt, awareness itself becomes the first form of resistance. The specific tools, automatic payments above the minimum, targeting the highest interest balance first, refusing every unsolicited limit increase, these aren't complicated. They were never complicated. They were just never going to be handed to you by the same industry that profits from you not knowing them. So here's where this actually leaves you. Not with a reason to cut up every card, throw your phone in a drawer, and live entirely on cash for the rest of your life. That's not realistic, and honestly, it's not even necessary. What this actually leaves you with is something quieter than that. It's the difference between using a system and being used by one. The card itself was never the enemy. It's just a tool, the same way a knife is just a tool. What matters is who designed the handle and who designed it to cut. For decades, only one side of that equation had the research. The banks knew about the pain of paying. They knew about decoupling. They knew exactly how a minimum payment box could be legally accurate and still lead millions of people into decades of debt they never meant to carry. You didn't have that information. Now you do. That's really the only thing that changes tonight. Not your card, not your balance, not your bank. Just the fact that the next time a limit increase notification appears, or a rewards app nudges you toward one more purchase, or a minimum payment looks small enough to ignore, you'll recognize it for what it actually is. Not a convenience. A decision someone else already made for you a long time before you ever picked up that piece of plastic. The system isn't going to change because one video exposed it. It's far too profitable for that. But you don't need the system to change. You just need to stop being the person it was built to work on. If this changed how you see something you use almost every single day, that's exactly what this channel exists for. Not to make you afraid, to make you aware. There's a difference, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. Subscribe if you want to keep seeing the parts of this world that were never meant to be this visible, because there's always another trap, and next time, we're going to open it together.